Hey everybody, it's Ken McElroy. I'm here with Bill Borders and John Finn. Hey guys.
Kenny, how are you?
Good. So they're with Venom 55. So any of you guys that love wine or specifically are into real estate, self-storage, we're going to talk about wine storage today, which is a real estate play. I always tell people, real estate is really their boxes, right? So industrial is a big box. The retail is a big box. Offices are basically boxes. The self-storage, which I do, are boxes. They're a little smaller, 8x10s. Apartments are boxes. And now you've got these wine storage boxes. But what the thing that pisses me off is that they get more rent for the little wine box than I get from my self-storage, which is an 8x10.
That's true.
It's nuts. So that's why I wanted you guys on, because this is like a sneaky, niche-y little business. Let's talk about Venom, how it started. And how you got the idea.
Yeah, Kenny, you're absolutely right. It was storage. Bill and I are good friends around wine, and Bill's also a general contractor, and he built our first storage unit in my house, a 100-bottle wine fridge. What we've done is we construct all of our own buildings, and most of that space is cold. We chill it down to 55 degrees. We pump in humidity. And then they also have some office space and some conference rooms and tasting room area. It's a very social club, if you think about it. So we bring in vintners and do wine tastings at the place. But it really is cold storage.
So the first building that we did was connected to a restaurant who had no parking. And so they bought the building 2 doors down for the parking in a dilapidated old Hayworth building, right? And so it sat there for years, and when we went looking for something, that's what we were looking for. So we just took an old building that nobody really wanted, and we turned it into storage because it didn't have, clear height of 16 feet or anything, because we're just doing cubic feet, right? So it all mattered. It had 10-foot ceilings, and it was nice, long, so it was efficient. And that's what we converted. That's how we got started.
Okay, so let's talk about how the math works, because I remember going into your storage facilities, like, man, this is a lot of money for this little box. But in that box could be thousands of dollars of wine.
Yeah, and so the way it's an NOI play, Kenny, it is, we have a 5,000 square foot building. We cool 4,000 of that. And within that 4,000 square feet, you carve it up into what we call cages. So each locker is a cage. You can hold as small as 10 cases of wine and as big as a couple hundred cases. So it's literally, like Bill says, we're leasing cubic square feet to our members.
A lot more efficient than apartments. I was like, which is a business I've had, I was like, wow, this is cool. Like these, what is a normal box size? And how much does it rent for?
A typical, call it a typical locker holds around 24 cases of wine. And those are going to rent for around $200 a month.
Okay. All right. And is that your kind of strike zone? Is that where everybody kind of wants to be?
It appears to be the most entry-level position. We do have smaller ones, obviously, and we have much larger ones. But, I would say that probably 80% of the size that people are looking for is around that 20 case size.
Or at least 80% of them start there.
Okay.
I mean, we convert a lot of those into twos, and then they get up and downs because they grow.
Okay.
And it really is, our lead gen is our own membership base, right? Because what they're doing is they get into one locker and they continue to buy wine, and they're a collector, and then they need another one, and they just keeps kind of going.
So now you guys have knocked out many of these, and you're looking for other locations. So what is the demographic? I'm sure you've learned a lot in 9 years. Like, if somebody was interested in this business, like for me with self-storage, I'm looking at rooftops, residential housing, and there's so many rooftops in the area that you want, that's going to pour over into storage. For apartments, I'm looking for, obviously more demand than supply, and, and employment and all that kind of stuff. What do you guys look for in wine storage? What are the demographics?
I would say that we get lucky in that we follow Napa quite a bit.
Okay.
We're taking their lead. So we have that logistical side where we can go into a state and we can deliver, and we can start collecting that data and seeing where the drinkers are. And then that'll tell you where the sticks and bricks go.
They give you
right? So they're giving us
their data.
They're giving us the recipe. I mean, we're just not that
so you guys have a mailing list? Jesus, that's like...
I mean, it's pretty simple, right? Just follow them.
Follow it. Yeah. That's a good point.
And we do look at some demographics and where people are living, and what does that income level look like, and accessibility. Is it near a freeway? Is it what's in the neighborhood, right?
So let's talk about vacancy, because in my world, we're always managing vacancy. Essentially, once you're full, these things got to be, pretty profitable, pretty cash cow, huh?
Yes, it is. I kind of explain our investment thesis as buying a bond.
Yeah.
You invest in this thing, and it's something that is going to continue to pay you back and pay your family back when you're gone. So it is, we look at it as a net cash on return.
Because once you're full, I know the one that I'm involved in, once it took a little while to fill up, like a lot of stuff, like my self-storage, it took me 2.5, 3 years to fill 700 units.
Yeah.
Once it was full, though, then you're just kind of managing it. It's a little different, but it got to be kind of the same for you guys, right? There's not a lot of people moving.
No, and it is where, you fill up a facility and you still have a lot of demand in that area. So that's why we have 3 of them in Arizona. We're looking at building a 4th.
The difference in our storage is it's just always changing out, right? So we're always in their locker. We're always moving it in. It's going out. It's coming in. It's going out. It's coming in. So it's busy.
Yeah.
It's just full.
So let's talk about that overhead side of it, because I know, like, you've hired some great people. Like, these are sommeliers. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many of those do you have?
So all of our staff are wine-trained professionals, and we have 18 on staff right
That's
now.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and these are hard. These are like very smart people.
Very smart.
Like, I was like, wow, John. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, it's John.
Well, they know a lot more about wine than we ever will.
It's
I
insane.
was hoping we wouldn't get into that. But.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got these incredible people, and then once you put stuff in a box, in a storage facility, how do they get to it? Do they come in? Do you send it to their house? And if they have a party or a wedding or something, do you deliver it? How does that all work?
The answer is yes.
All the above.
It's always yes. There are some options there. You may want to tinker around with your own cellar. A lot of people do that in the beginning for the first year, and then they go, I don't know why I'm doing this, and then they turn it over to us. We'll gladly manage it for you. If you're out of town, we can get the wine to you. If you want to come and get it, we'll throw it in the back of your car.
Oh.
The answer really is yes.
Oh, wow. I never thought of that. So that's actually an interesting thing. So if you're on vacation or wherever you are, you guys, that's a good point. You just send it to wherever they are.
Wherever
right?
you are.
So they have a case or two, just send it to here. Truth is, guys, I don't know anything about wine. Like, I know a little bit because of these guys, but I just have to rely. That's the other piece that I actually liked, because when I went to you and I said, hey, I got this big wine cellar now. What do I do? You didn't there's really good stuff under $100, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Incredible stuff.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, and so that was another piece for me. I saved a bunch of money, I think, obviously, because you're like, you don't need to pay that much for this kind of wine. The knowledge,
right.
I'll walk in and I'll go, oh, Camus, yeah,
Right.
I grab it. It's like, I don't know, but I know that there's a whole bunch of wines that are comparable.
Yeah, you go to a restaurant, you open it up, whatever it is, you're drinking it right now. So they're not stocking anything that's, more than 3-4 years old.
Yeah.
Right. So if you do it right and you're buying today what you're drinking 5 years from now, you paid $65 for a bottle that might be retailing for $300, or it's certainly drinking like it's $300, and now you're in it.
Yep.
Right. So now you're drinking 3-4 years later what you bought. It's worth more. It tastes better.
Yep.
It's all working.
Yeah, and there is a science to all this.
Sure.
There is a science to buying wine and holding it for a year or 2 or 3, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And I always tell people, there really is no bad debt expense in this business. That people are not walking away from their 12 cases of wine and leaving it for us to drink at the holiday party, right? So
like in a storage unit, they're like, oh,
this is not the storage wars.
We got a bunch of right. There's no wine wars. If there was, I'd be right there. That's hysterical. All right, so let's talk about what else did you guys learn about this business? Because I love this is a great entrepreneur story. Honestly, I can't believe how incredible those people you hired are. Like, literally, these are super smart people that really understand wine, which is a massive service. You didn't actually have to do that for storage, but you did it.
And I think that really does differentiate us from other wine storage concepts.
Yeah.
Where we really have, invested in the sommelier, invested in that concierge service for our members, right?
Yeah. Let's touch on the operating expense side just before we wrap up. Like, what are some of you got, obviously your building costs and you've got some overhead, because this is a real estate channel. So people are probably trying to think, okay, we've talked a lot about the income side and the occupancy and obviously how good it is once you fill it. But what about the operating expenses? What should people be looking at or thinking about?
Yeah, I think that our largest expenses come from obviously rent or a mortgage, utilities, and then staff.
Okay.
So other than that, there really are no other expenses.
The buildings are quite efficient. Our first building is 5,000 square feet. It's 55 degrees year round, and I don't think we've ever had a bill over
$1,000.
Oh, wow.
So we try to build them like Yetis and keep them cool. So I think our utilities are down. The rent can be challenging. When you get in, when we get full, the landlord knows you're full.
Yeah.
And he knows how much it costs for you to get out of there. So your rent goes up.
Yeah.
Well,
So that's been a challenge.
That is one thing that we've really figured out is we're bad renters.
Yeah.
So what we've really been trying to do is buy buildings.
Yep.
And if you think about what we're buying, it's that undesirable, no windows, no parking needed.
That's a good.
No
thing.
monument sign.
Yeah.
Right. We want to be in the box. We want to be in the back.
Yep.
That makes more sense. Plus, when we get it, when we build it all out, that's stuff that's permanent, right? Not stuff that you have to think 5 years down the road you might have to take with you.
Yeah.
It's just better, right?
You want to be that building that everybody drives by and doesn't know what's in there.
There you
every
go.
day. They didn't even know the building was there. That's what we want.
That's what you want.
Yeah, it's like the data center.
Bill, John, thanks. What is the best way people can reach you?
Yeah, we'll have a site up and a way to get a hold of us with a form fill at venom55.com.
Thanks, guys. This is a very interesting niche. I think it's a heck of a real estate idea and real estate play. And it's a great way to have a business pay for your real estate, pay for your building, and generate long-term cash flow and wealth. So
there you go.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
See you,
Great
man.
seeing you.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.